Bonjour, Anin. I am Michael-Niigaanii, and this is my research study, Increasing On-Task Behavior of High School Students in a Center-Based Classroom. So it's really important to note that in the world of special education, academic engagement is an ongoing issue because observable off-task behavior really disrupts the students' progress in their academic achievement. Furthermore, it's also really important to note that low achieving students at the secondary level have been shown that they are 51% academically engaged per ROC 2005. So that's a really low number, and that's really concerning. So what interventions out there can help increase those positive outcomes with students being academically engaged? And the use of the self-monitoring intervention has shown to improve outcomes of reading performance as well as on-task behavior per Guzman et al. 2018. And the use of those metacognition strategies really helps support their self-management. So their ability to be able to stop, pause, and be able to really reflect on their work and their behavior. So the purpose of the study was to examine the use of a self-monitoring intervention on students in my academic prep class, which is in a center-based setting for students receiving special education services. And really, I was looking to see what those effects were of the self-monitoring intervention on the students' on-task behavior in the high school classroom. So looking at the study, there were 3 participants, and they all were on the autism spectrum disorder, and they were all evaluated, had evaluated needs for executive functioning. They ranged from ages 15 to 18 years old, and they were in grades 9 through 12. The setting of this study occurred in a high school in the upper Midwest, in a center-based classroom, which just means that students are in a small group for up to 65% of the day. The dependent variable was on-task behavior in the classroom, and this was a study that took about 8 weeks. 1 week of it was baseline, and the other 7 were for the intervention. It was an A-B design and intervention. And the materials that I used were a self-monitoring sheet for students to use, a vibrating timer to prompt them twice in a 50-minute class period, and of course their student work that they used throughout the class. When looking at the results of this study, you can see that all 3 students in the baseline phase showed a high variable downwards trend, which showed that they needed intervention. And as you can see, 2 of the 3 in the first intervention phase had low levels of variability and an increasing trend. 1 student actually had a decreasing trend and was highly variable, but then stabilized into an increasing trend with lower variability. In the withdrawal phase, it took 3 days for students to immediately have a downwards trend. And real application of this study was that we're not going to continue to see this decrease in performance, and needed to be placed back into intervention. And then in that second intervention phase, again, stabilizing at the same levels, roughly about the same levels from first intervention. So seeing a low level of variability with an increasing trend. The intervention fade, that phase looked promising. What happened was that, as previously said, the prompting vibrating timers were twice in a 50-minute class period that spaced 20 minutes apart. That intervention fade, excuse me, I apologize, was reduced to 1 prompt for students. And just from looking at data in that phase, future research really should be examining a more gradual fade for this procedure, suggesting that a more gradual fade would overlap with the previous intervention phase. So that was something that in further research should be done. Also looking at when really looking at the materials in this study, the vibrating timer was quite intrusive for students, complaining that it was disruptive and really just kind of not very pleasant of a timer sound. But looking at the similarities with past research, this study has data replicating previous findings to high school populations, per Crabtree et al. 2010 and Graham-Day et al. 2010. And this and Blood et al. 2011, Graham-Day et al. 2010, previous research investigated effects of self-monitoring, specifically on task behavior. And that is what this study tried to replicate. And limitations was that this was a study that did include all students that were receiving special education services. Participants improved on-task behavior being generalized to general ed classes was inconclusive. So basically what that means is that findings in this study didn't translate into their on-level classes. And then a functional relationship was not determined with on-task behavior and an increase in academic performance. So really what that means was that, yes, they were on task, but it didn't always mean that they were